Hello there everybody and welcome. You are most welcome to tonight's Cleasby Craic Painting Show. Now, on tonight's show, as it says on the caption, we are going to be painting some fiery sunsets. Now, obviously, if we're going to paint some fiery sunsets, then we're going to be using some nice oranges, some nice blues and fiery colours to create quite an animated and, well, quite dynamic sunset picture. Now, here we have set up a small easel, and on this easel we obviously have a little board with some watercolour paper. Okay, now this watercolour paper is stuck onto a board, and we have our paints here. And we have our brushes, and we're going to give it a nice old crack. Now, just to inform you, when you do embark on painting any kind of sunset, sunrise, landscape kind of picture, the best way to start that kind of composition is to divide your sky into, well, your picture into 2/3 sky and 1/3 ground, or 2/3 ground or 1/3 sky. Now, the image that we're going to be working from is this image here. So as you can see, you've got quite a nice sort of sunset sort of vibe going there with some nice colours and some nice blues and oranges. Welcome everybody if you're live watching. Tonight we're going to be painting live a nice fiery sunset to kind of warm us up on this cold evening. Your Darth Vader will come on your birthday, Victor. That Darth Vader will come. And I'm tempting you. We're going to get there slowly. We're going to get that Darth Vader painting. I actually did make a painting of the Star Wars painting after I watched the film. So, Victor, if you have not seen the Star Wars painting on Instagram, check it out. Now, the first thing to do, when we start, we're going to get a nice big brush, about this big, and we're going to start off with some nice red. Alright, so this is the first thing we're going to get a brush. I'm just going to get a nice bit of red. And this here is just to suggest a kind of a fiery looseness in the, and these are going to be the clouds. So what we're going to do there, that's the clouds. So making sure when you are using anything that deals with things like water, which is what I'm doing, it's the sky and then the water. You have to make sure that there are reflections. So if I put red in the sky, then the red must come in the ground. So red here. You see there are two, these things must be harmonious with each other. Okay, and in the middle, I'm going to make sure I don't dip that into my cup of tea. That would have been a bit awkward. In the middle, I'm just going to loosely draw a line. Okay, so I'm going to quickly zoom in to make sure you can all see. So far, you can just see you've got the line here, and then you've got the sky, and then you've got the ground. So this is the basis, and this is what it's going to end up looking like here. Okay, so we've just divided our painting into 1/3 here of the sort of the sea, the ground, whatever you might want to call it, and the top here is the sky. Okay, so I'm just going to put this back here. I hope you can all see. Do comment if the vision, if the picture can be improved. I'll try to bring the painting a little bit closer so you can see. Now we kind of have the basis of our painting. We've got the sky, we've got the ground, we've got the ocean. Now we need to work on our 3 primary colours. Now, if you do not remember the 3 primary colours, if you're watching, the 3 primary colours are blue, red and yellow. Now, the reason why these 3 primary colours are really important is you can use these 3 primary colours and you can mix them together and you can it's basically a painting on the interaction of these primary colours. Obviously, because when you mix them, that makes different colours. So, for example, blue and yellow make green, red and yellow makes orange, etc., 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 etc. Basically, what you need to do, bring them on camera. I'm experimenting here. I've never done this before. I'm adding someone to the camera, so we'll see what that does. Now, we're going to focus now on our first primary colour, which is red. So we're going to get as much red into this painting as possible, okay? So what that means is we're just going to put some red here. Put some red there. Now, what is another primary colour that would work quite nicely with red at the immediate kind of, you can balance some colours out? It's yellow. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a different brush, and we're just going to get a little bit of yellow. How has everybody's day been? Do share. How are we all feeling this evening? Are we feeling happy? Are we feeling good? Any interesting stories about what people have been doing today? I was teaching a lesson today about Frankenstein and Macbeth at school. Interesting experience, I must say. It was a good lesson to sort of get stuck into. Kids enjoyed learning about it. It was good crack, as they say. Now, what you can see here, you can see the gradation of colour coming down. So you can see you've got the red just kind of stretched across. the yellows and the oranges are just stretching across here. Now, the third primary colour is obviously blue. Okay, so it's obviously blue. So what we're going to do here now is we're going to get another brush, another clean brush, and we're going to work on how we can get a blue in there. Now, one way of doing that is to see colours in a painting as not like just colours stretched across the painting, but actually shapes. So, for example, you're going to paint a triangle, or a parallelogram, or I don't know, an offset any kind of shape as a colour, and that can help you break down a painting. So here, if you can see, we're just mixing our blues in. Mixing the blue in. And it's good when you do these paintings to keep it nice and quick. Now, one thing to make mention as well, you need to make sure we understand how light is interplaying in this painting as well. So for example, sometimes when you're doing these kind of paintings, on the horizon line, in the far distance, it's better to make that dark. But then in the foreground, because it's talking about perspective, you make the things closer to you a bit lighter. So what we can do to kind of create this effect is on the actual horizon line, is to just do a line like this in blue. Like that. Can you see? Hopefully you can see what I'm referring to. So you can see the painting there, there's the blue line. So there you go, so you've got the blue line kind of just on the horizon line, and what that does is that kind of shifts it up a little bit. So instead of just having it so that all the painting is just one stagnant colour, but it actually kind of breaks it up a little bit, and you can give it an extra bit of depth. So what we're going to work on now is we've got our three primary colours, blue, yellow and red. Now we're going to work on is a little bit of perspective. So we've got that blue horizon line in the distance. In the foreground, some wisps of waves, just wisps of waves. Okay? So there was an Irish painter who had a talk show that I watched the other week, and he says that when you paint, you should whisper to the paint. So I think this is quite applicable when you're painting these kind of wisps of waves. You've got to whisper to the painting. You don't want to let it get away from you. You've got to just whisper to it. So I'm trying to kind of channel that inner crazy Irish guy from that show. And you can see here that you've got room here to play with. So we know what we're working with. We've got our sky, we've got our sea, we've got the kind of the space marked out. Now we just need to give that extra bit of emotion and a bit of depth. And one way of making that happen is to really intensify the colours that you use. So instead of just saying, right, I'm going to paint a little bit of a sea, and a little bit of this, and so really make the yellows as yellow as you can, the reds as red as you can, and a little bit of mixture in between, so you can put a bit of red with yellow, etc., 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 and that can help. So what I'm going to try and do now is here, I'm going to just try and get some orange involved. So obviously, how do we make orange? We mix red and yellow. So here we've got that kind of mixture of colours there. My favourite painter is probably either Van Gogh, Monet or Turner, and each of these painters were very, very interested in mixing colours and really making colours bold, fiery, and giving a great sense of adding depth and gesture. You are lit, Asheen, you are lit. And this sky is dedicated to you. This is what you call a lit sky. So, what you need to do is you need to see the sky as a panoramic kind of spread, like you're spreading butter onto, nice bread and nice jam. And you've got this nice bit of red here, and you're just spreading that red across, like it's a nice juicy jam. So just spreading it across, and that's going to help you there. It's what you call a nice yellow. So, what I like to do, I hate white spaces in the painting. I hate it when you just get this white left over. It isn't so good. What I tend to do is get a bit of yellow, and where you see some white spaces, just go over it with the yellow. Like that. See? So you're kind of making the painting a little bit more exciting than just lots of white space. And basically, this is a watercolor, so it is a delicate painting. It's not thick like an oil painting, but there is room to play with in terms of depth, which is always a great thing. So we've got a little bit of blue here. Now this is my palette. Not the biggest palette I've ever seen, but it's good for watercolor. It's a good palette, and this is the kind of palette that painters like Turner. Well, not this kind of palette, because I got this one from the range, and I doubt that Turner and all these painters went to the range in Burnley to get their equipment. Nonetheless, the same rule applies. You've got a selection of painters you use, and just quickly apply them on. So we've got some dark blue here. Okay, we've got some dark blue, and basically what we're going to do is feather. Now, feathering is when you just tickle the painting. You just tickle the painting. Nothing too extreme, nothing too big. Just tickle the painting there. So what I'm going to do is you hold the brush at the end. If you hold the brush at the end, it's easier. So get it into the nice dark blue. Hold it at the end of the brush. Just tickle the painting. Now, this is what you call tickling. So you get the brush and you just tickle it. No, so a lot of people when they paint, they can be quite hesitant because they feel that they might make a mistake. Never have any fear when painting. It always works out. You've just got to have trust. Kind of like life in a way. You just kind of trust that somehow the painting will work. And in the same way in life, you just kind of trust that somehow whatever you're doing is good. Now, the feathering continues because it's the same principle as drawing. Sometimes with drawing, you can do cross-hatching and you can kind of shift up the sketching and the line. So in the same way here with the painting, you're just tickling through and getting all those different colours in there. So the feathering here is basically lots and lots and lots of little lines that are very quickly applied and kind of shifted together, like brickwork. And you're just using these blue lines to just give extra bit of depth. Because effectively what you've got going on is you've got perspective, so you want to push the painting to go back. So in the foreground, obviously you're going to have much bigger lines. And then in the distance, you're going to have much smaller lines there. You're just going to... So that's what I'm doing here. So you've got the blue in the distance. So basically what I'm doing now is I'm just going to do lots and lots and lots of small little lines. Basically just as a way of kind of feathering. It's a good word. Hello, Dad. Nice to see you. Dad, do you want to come feature on the show?
No, you're alright.
Do you want to tell anything about feathering?
Feathering, my favourite bit of feathering.
Feathering's good, isn't it? Feathering is good old crack. Now, there are many different kinds of blues. There are dark blues, there are light blues, there are reddy blues, there are yellow blues, there are lots of different blues. One way, if you're going to do a painting that's going to keep a bit of emotion, you want to get as many different kinds of colours as you can on the painting. So, the one colour that I think we need to push a bit more of is this kind of orange. So, what we need to do, get a bit of orange in there. Just like that. See, on this line here, push up, because basically you need to give the impression that the sun, or something like that, is just pushing up on that horizon line there. So, let's just get a bit more yellow. These paintings don't happen, they don't happen overnight. They happen in half an hour. This idea that sometimes, the best paintings take a heck of a long time isn't always true. Sometimes it can take a matter of minutes to just kind of get a good effect. Okay, so in this sky here, in both of them, we've got quite a bit of texture, we've got quite a bit of depth. One thing that we need to try and convey now is a sense of some nice clouds, really. And clouds are quite hard to paint, but there's one way of helping us do this. Now, obviously, some clouds are really dark, some clouds are really light, some clouds are this, some clouds are that, But basically, the best thing to do, never ever use black. So, for example, if you've got grey clouds, never use grey. Greys can be conveyed actually with a very sort of subtle purples with hints of blues and things like this. So the best way to do it actually is to kind of get a bit of purple. Now obviously purple is a mixture of red and blue with a tinge of yellow, just a tinge. Now, obviously we've talked about feathering, which is like kind of little kind of little bits and bobs, dabs as they call them. So there's dabs and there's feathering. The other way of doing it is just creating blocks. So a few shapes come to mind when I think of clouds. I think of circles, I think of rectangles, I think of triangles, and always interlocking together. Because there's no conventional cloud. There's just lots of different kinds of clouds. So one thing I like to do, get a little bit of red and blue, and just block out slowly what a cloud could be like. So just do a little outline like this. In the corner, you see that? You've got that corner. That could be where a cloud could be. Now, if you're wanting to make the cloud have a bit of depth, on one side of the cloud, add a bit of red. Just like that. And if it drips, that's fine. That can just kind of add to the texture. And on the other side, if you want to give it a bit more depth, add more blue. So there's no such thing as a cloud. And obviously this is at a certain time of day where there's going to be lots of colours, it's very intense. You basically want to make sure that you don't come across as looking like you just use felt tips. You know what I mean? You want to make it like have a bit of, and even though this is in watercolours, there is nonetheless room to make sure that your painting can have lots of depth. So basically, one thing you can do is any colours that you see in the top, so for example in the cloud, reflect in the sea. So for example, I've painted up quite a purples here, but then in the actual sea itself, reflect down. So you've got the sky, the clouds and the purples, reflect that down and put that into the bottom. I do hope that everyone is having a nice Wednesday. Wednesdays are just one of those days of the week. So for some people they're good, for some people they're bad, for some people it's just Wednesday. But for me it's Cleasby Craic painting time. That's all you got to say. What more can you want on a Wednesday evening? I hope I do hope you've had a good day. Exciting and whatever you're up to. If you happen to just be chilling and you've got a paintbrush near you, you've got a sketchbook, you've got no excuse. Get your sketchbooks out, have a do. This is what you call Creative Wednesdays. Now, you can distribute all this colour across, but one thing I'd like to do is don't isolate the clouds, don't isolate the colours. One thing you should do is make sure these colours have a nice kind of, they flow across the painting, but equally so does the colour. There's a sense of coherence and a sense of balance. And it's very, very important to make sure that you adhere to that balance. So you've got this purpley cloud going on here. Further down, you can create a new one. Just there. Just around here. And the same techniques apply watercolour painting to oil painting to acrylic painting. It's not as though, I mean, obviously there are set styles and disciplines and techniques that you can employ that are kind of conventional. But I mean, what's the point of making art conventional? You know, you've got to keep it nice and free. What's the point of art if it has to be followed by rules? If you want to paint in oil, Turner, who is my favourite painter, he painted in oils in the same way that he would paint in acrylics. Lots of lush, beautiful, thick paint, spread, watery, just violently expressive, in the same way that watercolours can be. So if you are a painter and you feel like you're kind of a little bit tied down, let that arm just go with it, you know, and just see the end in the beginning. Now, at the moment, I've realised that we are quite heavy on the reds and purples, so we're going to try and just get a bit of yellow. And it is all done in one go, so there's no need to let anything dry and go back again. You just keep going on it. You just keep painting and painting and painting and painting. I'm just going to quickly zoom in so you can all see. So this is a better picture of it. So here, obviously, is the cloud you've got going on. And then here's obviously the horizon line, and you can see, obviously this isn't finished yet, but this is kind of the size. So you can see in relation to the computer, you've got the painting and a cup of tea, very important. And basically the next step, if you can see in the picture, obviously there's a very intense bright light here, but that's obviously because of the way that maybe the resolution of the camera, which is quite difficult to convey in paint. Obviously painting isn't photography, so you have to get away from this idea of like making it look as perfect as possible. It's a picture, the painting is a new subject. So what I'm going to try and do now is just bring out those lighter blues, focus on making sure that this isn't too white here because it's not on the picture, and just kind of giving it a bit of a solid finish, I suppose. And we're going to try and get this wrapped up in the next sort of 10 minutes or so. I do hope you're enjoying the show. Look forward to any comment. If you've got any comments, any thoughts, any ideas, I'd love to hear what you think. Always very appreciative of anyone's feedback or comments. If anyone is painting tonight or they feel like they want to, get yourself a paintbrush and give it a crack. In every sense of the word, crack and crack. So at the moment, I'm just making that horizon line slightly more dark. That's better. So just making that horizon line darker. just making sure that where you put a dark line, sometimes contrasts are helpful. So if you've got a really dark line somewhere, it can be helpful to put that dark line complement that next to a bright line. So you've got dark and light contrasting each other. That's a very helpful juxtaposition. That can actually be really, really helpful if you do that. So yeah, that's the cloud just here. I'm just making that cloud a slightly more darker. Slightly more darker or slightly more dark? How do you say it these days? Now, when I'm using the brush, I'm literally using it and just bashing it in. And that can sometimes be quite helpful because it gives that wisp. We're talking about the whisper to the painting before. So yeah, it's just a kind of mixing all the colours, making it look... Basically, you want to give the impression that the paint doesn't look like it's been laboriously plonked on to the page, but rather that it's just kind of, it belongs there. This is kind of serene feel to the piece. That's the way. That's the best way to do it. Because if you do it that way, then winner winner chicken dinner, as my grandma says. So. Are there any painters out there currently watching? Do share your thoughts. Do share your, if you paint yourself, share your, do you guys paint? Put your things out there. Get yourselves going. Instagram, Facebook, all these different outlets are fantastic ways to get your art out there. Fantastic ways to sort of get a bit of comments going. Art's out there to be seen and to be appreciated. Not that I'm not trying to self-promote, but it's out there to be admired. Now, I would say we're about 3/4 finished. The next thing we need to do is just this top corner here. So, I'm just going to get a bigger brush, a nice big juicy brush. This is a nice big, and just get a nice bit of blue there. Every colour's nice. It's a nice yellow, it's a nice blue. They're all good colours. Okay. It's about 10 minutes left of the show now. Hopefully we'll get this wrapped up by 8 o'clock. I am very appreciative of all of you that have watched. It's a great joy to just spend a bit of time with you and just do a painting. I hope you're enjoying it. A few things really just to mention in terms of painting. Sometimes it's when people feel a little bit reluctant to get the paintbrush out or say things like, I can't draw, or say that, I can't make art. There's no such thing as some inability to make art. It doesn't exist. It's all about self-belief. So if you just get up, and just say, I'm going to make a cracking painting today. Just say, I'm going to make a cracking piece of art. It'll happen. It's all about confidence. It's very similar to sports. People usually see these amazing sports men and women who do all this awesome stuff. It's usually just belief. You just believe in yourself. So I'm not saying that this is a particularly good painting, but that's just a mentality I feel that's helpful. Because if we thought that we'd make mistakes, then obviously, you just got to let your brush do the talking. Now we're almost done, so sometimes it's helpful to get a big brush and just go over it. Now I'm just going to get a bit of red. Now, obviously, you got to bear in mind a few kind of principles, like even just like physical principles of like nature. So obviously, if the sun is coming up, then the sun is going to touch the clouds at the bottom. So, for example, that might mean that you put a little bit of red at the bottom of a cloud, or a bit of yellow at the bottom of a cloud, or a bit of orange, because the sun's obviously going to push up from the sky. So that's going to influence how you paint. Now, wherever you make a light mark, you must make a darker mark. So here we're going to make a few darker marks. It's all about coherence and balance. That's what it's all about. A bit of patience, coherence and balance. All right. This piece of paint, this will be going onto Instagram, Facebook, all those different outlets. So if you do want to see the finished product on a picture, keep an eye out for it, and you can see. If you want the picture, no, I'm joking. No, if you do, if anyone wants the image, always happy to distribute work around. Do let me know. We're almost there. So, last thing to do is just to tartan it up a little bit, just to tidy it up. So we've got 5 more minutes, probably until we're done. So, just going to show you painting. So basically you've got the sky, you've got the sea, you've got all the different colours. What we're going to do is we're just going to make this line here slightly darker and finish that off, and then we're just going to feather through some darker lines and make some of the clouds a bit darker. So I'm just going to put that there, and then we'll be done very soon. So I'm just going to make this darker. That's the blue, making it nice and dark there. And then the waves as well. Make sure we get those waves painted in. And the last thing is just also making sure that we get the yellows involved, or the oranges. So in certain areas of the painting we can just put a bit of orange, like so. Yeah, we're almost done. Just going to get orange involved, the blue involved, yellow involved as well. And obviously, whatever colours you do use in the sky, obviously it's always helpful to make sure you reflect those in the ocean. So if, for example, in the clouds you had a lot of oranges that were coming through, then obviously it's a very good idea to get that reflected into the ocean. So for example, I can see here that there's quite a bit of orange going in here, so it'd be helpful if I try to reflect that, for example. And these are just the finishing touches. We're almost done there, but just to finish, just to make sure that it basically just has that nice little bit of balance. Because basically, aesthetically speaking, I think that's what kind of the success of art really, in terms of like visual arts and plastic arts, like in all forms, is just that bit of balance. I think that's something very important to bear in mind, I think, when you're making these kind of paintings. So, last thing to do, I think the one colour that's missing, I would say, is a nice clean red. So, just going to see if we can get a little bit of red involved. So, I'm going to suggest a bit of red there, just a tad, and a bit of red here. Don't overdo it now. Don't overdo it. Just a little bit of red. Nothing much. Nothing major. Just a bit of red. Just a bit of red and a tad of red too. I would say, as I was saying before, to get back into the ocean. Just get a bit of red. And then we're almost done there. So that, I think, is a painting done. So I'm just going to talk through step by step how I did this painting. I hope you like it. Do share your thoughts and opinions on what you think about the painting. I wanted to kind of paint a bit of a stormy sky. So basically, the first step was to divide the painting into two distinct little zones. So you've got 1/3 being the sea and 2/3 being the sky. So this was divided by a little line. And then I started off just by painting some loose colours for the clouds and for the light, focusing on 3 primary colours, red, yellow and blue. Kind of distributing those colours around evenly just to kind of give it that sense of kind of harmonious colour-tone relationship, whatever you want to call it. And then in the niggles in the between, kind of mixing those colours, getting some purples in there, making sure, for example, when you do put like an orange in the sky, that orange is reflected into the ocean. And kind of just giving this idea of, you know, like light that's coming up from the horizon that's kind of just touching the clouds. So this is, that's it really. So all I can say is, if you're out there with a paintbrush, fancying some art, find yourself free on a Wednesday evening, nothing else better to do, pick up a pen and paper, paintbrush and paint, what you want to do, just follow these little principles, making sure you remember the things like colour harmony, colour, the primary colours, and obviously when you are making a painting, making sure that, you know, you have a clear vision beforehand about what you're going to make, because that's going to help you in the long run. So, from me to you, a warm evening, and I hope you have a fantastic Wednesday night. Thank you very much for watching. This has been the Cleasby Craic Painting Show. Bye bye now.